And we had a lively debate, I'm sure, just like everybody else did, about neighborhood associations versus homeowner associations. I think that's one of the things that a lot of people are mostly familiar with because they're part of one for the most part. There's a lot of homeowner associations in town. One of the things that was discussed was how to build more neighborhood associations and have them more inclusive as opposed to exclusive. And I think one of the things was no membership dues and making sure everybody participates if they want to participate in the neighborhood association. So maybe a task force maybe by some organization to come up with a way to create these neighborhood associations that are not all geared towards homeowners and the common areas to be upkept, but for the community at large. So I think that's one of the things that we talked about. We should have more, I guess, maybe communication between the school districts. We have a lot of school districts in town. And so based on that, we have a lot of possibly good information that's not being communicated between the school districts. So maybe having a school district forum of some sort where there's community involvement. And then we've got community conversations. I think everybody here is having a conversation. We may need to get that to a different level, maybe potentially have them in schools, in different areas of town, so that way more people can participate in civic activities. Dr. Chen, is it Dr. Jen? Sorry. He said we should have a Bring Your Child to a Volunteer Activity Day in the city of San Antonio, so that way we can expose our kid or kids to volunteerism and being part of the community. We have another individual here said, we all thrive on partying, right? Fiesta and festivals. We should have potentially festivals all the time. No, we should have maybe voter registration at festivals like Fiesta and having, that's kind of off topic, but having people sign up to be, to vote at Fiesta events. We should do something like that.
Not that these categories are exclusive anyway, but the Bring Your Kid to a Volunteer event is over here now. We're shifting to the...
Wherever you want to put it. That's fine right there.
Okay. Actually, maybe...
Okay. I'm moving around. And then there was a potential discussion of having... well, let me move on to leadership training because we'll probably go down too much here.
I'll fill that one out.
There's another one.
Okay. Go ahead.
And one of the things that we try to address was, I think the professor from Idaho said there's two reasons that people run for office. One is they have a passion to run for office. The other one is that they've been asked. Somebody asked me to do this. And I think what we're trying to tackle here is trying to get, obviously, people that are qualified, capable, and have the qualities to be a good officer or leader. And so what we're discussing is how do we address the issue of asking good leaders to run for office or to become board members or commission members or advisory council members. And one of the things that we came up with is possibly having an internet-based sort of clearinghouse of all the positions, both from the private sector and public sector, where you could go online and say, look, there are 3 board positions for this organization that are open right now, and then have a nominating process where somebody can just go on there, fill out a form, nominate somebody for it, because that's when they get called to say, hey, we want to interview you. And that's a way to reach out to potential good, qualified candidates to be in these positions. We talked about the, obviously, we have to engage them young. And so I think that's where the key is to try to get individuals at a young age to want to participate, and that would be gearing towards high schools and doing high school advisory boards, that sort of thing, which I think are in place now, but we need to obviously foster that some more. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Our subjects were leadership training and building community capital. I'm going to begin with building community capital. Again, we were pretty much all agreed that we're building our human capital. and the entry and the re-entry process of what that looks like. You know, Cam Messina with Voices for Children, countless research has done that. You know, when you get children involved at a young age, you are building good foundation. Therefore, you're instilling the values. You know, in schools they teach you pillars of citizenship, of caring, really becoming involved in raising good, solid citizens when they're young. As early as Head Start, was that right? Head Start, yes. Not kinder, Head Start. And because that's where they develop the main, you know, human interpersonal skills. And the reentry process, we had an individual who worked with a reentry process of formerly incarcerated, and the difficulty that these people face to go back into becoming productive citizens. And so the marginalized community, such as previously incarcerated, also the homeless community, people who missed the early start of Head Start and are now wanting to become productive citizens. What are the opportunities that we have to build them? Also, the unique and diverse population. A value that we really saw for both of us, that we found that they kind of just overlapped, both of building community and building a leadership. For community was true engagement and supportive collaboration. That's a sentence that we came up with, right? So we want that to be on there. True engagement and what? And a supportive collaboration. Is that right? And somebody mentioned the term incentives for those who are truly collaborating together. Is that correct? Yes. We need incentives. And supporting systems. Also, I think that's it for building community. Moving on to the leadership training, again, going back to connectedness and communication. We saw a need, perhaps there is already something that's taking place, but the need to form city leadership connecting with the nonprofit community or non-traditional people who are in leadership opportunities or positions, but who are not able to go through the traditional way of leadership formation, such as the faith-based community, the nonprofit sector. Also, we mentioned schools, PTAs, school districts, you know, students, children, non-traditional ways, and neighborhood associations. Number 2 is digital divide. The fact that we are moving on technologically. Apparently everybody is tech savvy today, but there's a large population who don't have, was mentioned, who don't have access to a computer every day, or even, you know, once they have to go through free library, public internet access. And when we're moving into that direction, we're leaving a lot of people who don't have that access behind. And so basically just coming up with alternatives to electronics. I produce a community affairs program, so I'm all for moving on to with technology and informing our community, but then there's also that gap of those who don't have that resource, and that's it.
We were afraid that y'all would take our ideas, so we're glad we're next. And some of them have actually already been taken. We had a really good group. We had representation from SAHA, from Big Brothers Big Sisters, 2 realtors, and the League of Women Voters. So a really unique voices. So one of the ideas we had in terms of access for voter turnout, which was one of our categories, was early voting sites at VIA, somewhere that's not traditional perhaps, but targets a particular demographic that doesn't always get a chance in terms of early voting. HEB is a good site for early registration if they would be willing to actually allow the space. We also found out that there are a lot of people out there who are deputized, who aren't utilized in actually registering voters, who could be tapped for kind of non-traditional locations. Early childhood education, building on what's already been said, mock elections in the schools, take your kid to vote day, where kids actually get stickers even, because we know that Sometimes there's just an early incentive. Bring voting machines to high schools so that high school students can actually see what's involved, also making it more accessible for the parents in turn. Provide forums at schools on voting, and in reverse form, taking parents to the polls to vote, charging high school students or middle school students with that task. And then our table challenges the rest of y'all to register 10 people to vote. Mail-in voting is another possibility that we proposed. For overcoming the education information gap, we really like the idea of this policy jury that was proposed that Dr. Romero actually mentioned, because of that idea that people don't think it makes a difference to actually go out and vote. But if you see that there's some kind of voice or impact, that policy jury could help to overcome that education gap. And then another idea was focus groups for those who do not vote to find out how to overcome some of that. Public service announcements were also mentioned. We had a very active dialogue. Public service announcements, something to make it fun. So we were thinking about little telenovelas on Univision or that run in the paper, little comic strips that tell you about, that are informative but also fun, where it could actually convey a lot of information in a different kind of forum. Also locating forums at like the Housing Authority or through the case managers at Big Brothers, Big Sisters, the point of contact for what are traditionally low voter turnout areas also was an idea. Citizen academies at things like Saha, because those are non-traditional locations. And we did have a little bit on government accountability, but we got a little carried away on voter turnout. And the give decision-making to boards and commissions more than advisory, so that you're spreading the accountability and responsibility. Leadership training to train city council members more broadly on their responsibilities. So there's the idea of being responsible to their district, but also keeping them apprised of the larger City of San Antonio needs. There was also the idea of the potential for needing, in addition to single-member district, representatives potentially at large as a supplement. Revising the website and making it more accessible, but also providing, as other groups have mentioned, other forms for conveying the information. Did I forget anything? Okay.
All right, thank you.